Well, we are a couple of minutes past noon, and we see people enjoying lunch, and that's good. We want people, I suppose, the best word in that sentence was enjoy. That's really what the Haggin Oaks Golf Expo is all about. Enjoyment, fun. That's what the game is supposed to be about. I think you're going to enjoy the next person up here. Mr. Mike Schy is a PGA professional from Fresno. I've known Mike for about 20 years now, and he's one of my favorite guys in the world. Not only is he quite skilled and knows his business, but you never know quite what's going to come out of his mouth.
Sorry about that.
No, that's the good part. That's what I love. Please welcome Mr. Mike Schy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Did you drive up this morning?
I did drive up this morning. Had an interview this morning with John and his crew, and it was a lot of fun. Love driving the drive. This is cold hat coming up here.
You've been doing a lot of promotion for the Expo. You were on the Rise Guys here in ESPN the other day, and the Avid Ross show on KNBR this morning.
Again, the Expo is one of my favorite. I miss being here. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately, I guess I got to go on tour for a couple of years with Bryson, and didn't get to come up like I used to. I think I made 20 years in a row, or pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So this is a great event.
You know, I've tried very softly to let people know how fortunate I think we are in Northern California to have the Mortons here, and that this kind of show, it just doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
This is a one-off.
Right. Yeah. Other than the PGA show, I mean, that would be close, but most people can't get in the PGA show. So this is definitely the next best thing, that's for sure. And I would consider, the Mortons and you as well as family, to me. So I love being here and supporting it any way I can.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and I know you're going to have a lot of fun things to talk about. Let's tell people a little bit about you, though, and how you got from wherever there was to here.
Well, I've been teaching and coaching for about almost 40 years now, which is kind of scary. Bryson came in that play when he was about 11, 12 years old. He's 25 now, so that's about 13 years ago. Again, I love the idea of coaching. That was just something that is a passion of mine, being a golf professional and being on a golf course a few times. I wanted to coach, I wanted to teach, and get involved in kids' lives, help them get to college. And one influence was Ben Doyle over in Carmel. And I always remember him driving out in his golf cart with his television and his beta recorder, and I thought, man, that is really cool. And so my place is like that on steroids. So I couldn't fit it on a little cart, so I had to build a big tent to put it all in. So I always tell people that everybody should visit the tent at least once. It's a science project that's just gone terribly wrong, but a lot of fun to be around.
Terribly wrong in someone's mind. I'm sure most people wouldn't agree with you, obviously. So Ben Doyle was influenced how you teach, but go back a little further than that. Who kind of got you on this path of the person you've become?
Well, Hap Rose, an old PGA golf professional. I was in a rough family situation. I had a golf pro literally take me under his wing and gave me a job. And I worked on the driving range, picking up golf balls, cleaning clubs, and he let me play. I ended up getting an honorary membership at that course. And believe it or not, I ended up becoming the head pro there as well, years later. So I think Hap was probably my, biggest influence. He just took care of me. And again, he was just one of those old school guys, and I love that about him. And hopefully that's rubbed off the way I coach and teach as well.
Oh, definitely. That's something I didn't know about you, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think the way you coach is really kind of letting the student figure it out ultimately on their own. I mean, you're there to guide them and help them point them in the right direction.
Yeah, it's definitely a guided struggle. I think, when you look at Bryson, and obviously he's different in many, many ways. And so a lot of people call him the mad scientist, and the reality is, I hate to be classified as the real mad scientist, but he just got off the table. So we just call him Frankenstein. I think that's the best way to go. But again, I just don't say no, and I provide an environment that, again, Bryson on the one lane clubs, he asked, why do I have to play variable lane clubs? It's a great question. Most people would never think about that. He did, and I said, well, okay, let's go build a set and see how it works, and then you can answer your own question, and obviously it's changed the game in a big way already. So.
And you have some pretty strong opinions about one-length clubs as well.
Yeah, I think it's the only way. Personally, I really do. I think we've proven the numbers that dynamically you're going to improve, you're going to hit it straighter, you're going to hit it more accurate, you're going to improve your proximity. We know that. Why aren't the tour guys crossing over yet? Again, part of our problem, unfortunately, is Bryson. And so the fact that Bryson has clubs that are very upright, they're very unique. He has big, giant grips on them. He swings a little bit differently, and then he wears a weird hat. So you combine all those things, you're going, well, do I have to do all that to play one-length golf clubs? And that's not the case. If you looked at mine are pretty much traditional, like a normal, tall guy hitting a 7-iron. And so I've got kids that are 10 years old that are playing one-length golf clubs. They improve faster. It's just hitting their favorite club all day long. That's all it is. And again, one-length is not new. This has been around since golf began. Bobby Jones won the Grand Slam with a single length or one-length set of golf clubs. And so we discovered that when we went to Augusta and we saw that set of golf clubs in the trophy room, and we saw it was just a great day. Seeing that Bobby Jones did this, that validated what we were doing in a big way. We kind of knew about it, but we hadn't seen them. So being able to actually physically, we couldn't touch them because they were, in a glass case. But again, we got to touch the glass case, so that was a good part. So.
I was talking earlier about the fact that we don't ask enough questions. We don't try to take the game into our own hands. The game traditionally has been sort of off limits, and I think that's changing now. I think we have more of a voice with the game, and so with the one length, it's like, well, that's not what everybody plays. So why would I try it? I'd be weird. But I think with anything, you ask the question, you'll find out some information. With that, you try them and you see what happens. It's remarkable. I mean, I got a set. Cobra sent me a set, and so I took them out and tried them. And quite frankly, the 4-iron I can't hit a 4-iron.
Right.
And
most people shouldn't hit a 4-iron, so which is fine. I don't even think I have a 4-iron in my bag, so. But you have a hybrid though. But I guess a one-length hybrid, by the way.
Yes, but what I mean is that it wasn't the fact that the longer club was shorter. It was the fact that the shorter club was longer.
Right.
I had more trouble with the 9-iron. I went, well, but once I hit it, the feel that comes back is it's the kind of thing.
It's not just the fact that the clubs are shorter or longer. It's the fact that the head weights are specific. And so, I'm not a swing weight guy. I really don't care about swing weight. All I care about is how much the head weighs. And that's all that matters to me. Now, granted, yes, it'll end up at a swing weight, but I want the heads to be within plus or minus 1 or 2 grams of each other. And then we fit the shaft. And again, that could be a 9-iron length. Obviously, I've got 10-year-olds, so they're going to be shorter already. But again, I've got really good players who are swinging a 9-iron length. I also have good players that are swinging, quote, a 6-iron length. One length. It goes back to their favorite club. That's all it is. What's your favorite club? My 9-iron. Love my 9-iron. Okay, well then we start the fit there. I've got some that love the 6-iron, so that's where they start. And we go from there, and then make sure we get the shaft. Again, it's fitting. I think everybody should be fit. It's just the way it is. Everybody in here probably tried on their shoes. If they got the wrong pair of shoes, I guarantee you'll be walking funny. And I guarantee you, if you got a bad set of clubs that aren't fit, you're going to swing funny. Although I guess if you look at Bryson, maybe that's what happened to him. So
there's kind of a special deal going on this weekend too with one-length clubs in the back of the range.
Yeah, you can go take a set and go try it out on the short course. Which again, it's a unique experience. And if you've never done it, I strongly recommend you go try it because it's different, and immediately you'll have questions, but they'll be good questions and they'll lead you down a good path to help you improve. It's just a fact. So, I'm an old school guy. I like hitting fairways and greens. I talk to Bryson every week when we're talking. It's always about the fairways, always about hitting greens. Once he's hitting greens, then we're talking about proximity. Once you're inside 15 feet, then guess what? You get a chance to make putts. If you're outside of 15 feet, you're not making putts. And if you're missing greens, you're probably not making cuts either. So we go that way.
Let's back up to when you had him on the table. So when he was a young man, and the progression to this whole one length thing.
Well, Bryson, great player, great junior, competitively from day one. He was very inquisitive from day one. My environment, again, promoted that. I just promoted that with him. Believe it or not, if understanding lie angles, his original clubs he had before he went to one length were 6 degrees flat, which is really amazing considering his clubs are 10 degrees up right now. So if you think of that change, that's a pretty dramatic change. And so Bryson, again, I gave him The Golfing Machine. It's a book that was written by a guy named Homer Kelly in the late 60s. And it was just a way that we could communicate. He loves physics, he loves geometry. That book kind of goes down that road. And it was a great communication tool for us. Basically, he looked at the 24 components that would work for the swing he wanted, and he just said, that's what I want. I want those 24 components. I said, all right, let's get to work. And that's what we did. And so, and still to this day, he could tell you what his 24 components are. So he's certainly into more biomechanics now, which is more available probably at the tour level. But again, I think his baseline is always back to the golfing machine and that tool where we can communicate to each other. And by the way, there's 13 trillion swings in there. That's what I told him. Just pick one. And I would tell that to any student. Just pick one and let's go from there.
Just repeat it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about the grips. They're oversized grips, and what's the theory there?
Well, one of the things when Bryson decided to go to the single length or same length golf club, he wanted to hold the club more in his lifeline. So in order for that to happen, the grip had to be bigger, and I just happened to have Jumbo Max grips at the time. And so I threw one on his clubs, and he said, oh, that's the answer, boom. And so he does not grip it traditionally, where you would see him, let's say a normal golfer like I'm gripping it there in my fingers. You can see the heel pad on top of the grip. Bryson holds it more at the end and would hold it more in his lifeline to create a longer lever. And so he just felt like he could control the club face that way. The Jumbo Max grips, so again, because there's more surface area, it's easier to control the face. And so one thing that we know from a good player perspective, they want to control that face. There's a big fear of loss of face control on tour more than anything. And so for Bryson, having the bigger grip, it makes it easier to control that.
So he's found something he's comfortable with. He's out on tour. He's won tournaments.
Yeah, I think he's done okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people felt like it was a kind of a one-win wonder, I think, winning the USAM. I've always believed that he's going to be a great player. I've always believed he's going to win multiple times, obviously, on tour. I believe he's going to be a major winner. I certainly believe he's going to be the #1 player. Very difficult, going to be a process to get him to that point. But he works at it as hard as anybody. And so, I'm probably his biggest fan. And I firmly believe he's going to be a #1 player in the world. There's no doubt.
That's exciting. And again, going back to your theory of teaching, in letting them figure it out, right. What's your relationship now, and how often do you talk?
We talk a couple times a week still. Right now, we're if you follow him, we're talking about golf shots right now, and so that's we've always kind of believed that there shouldn't be just one set of golf clubs for all conditions. And he's finally at that place now where he's realizing that he wants to, again, it's like an Indy car. He needs to change the tires when it's raining, kind of thing. And so that's why he's going through the shaft changes right now and lots of testing right now. He's off for 3 weeks and hopefully getting some good testing in, or trying to get him some composite or graphite shafts because he feels like that might be the better way to go. So I'm a big believer in composite shafts. I think there's more options there, especially for the better player. Certainly great for most people. I know there's a cost factor there, but the way those shafts are made, there can be really some unique things for different conditions. So I could see Bryson having 3 different sets easily, maybe even 4. And so he's learned that with his putter, that he's had to be able to change the loft from surface to surface. So unfortunately for him, last week he discovered that he had deflection in his putter shaft, and it got in his head. And so, again, that's what happened to his putter. I've never seen him putt that bad in a long time. And so he admitted it got in his head. So, but he'll work that out. I have no doubt.
He's still a young man, obviously.
Yeah. Yes. And again, it's a show because he wants to try and test everything. And again, on tour, which is interesting, he was a poor kid, more or less. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, and so one set of clubs, and we begged and borrowed to get what we needed to get, especially our first sets of one length. I mean, we had to make all that stuff ourselves. And so now that he's on tour, and obviously a big name, and get whatever he wants, I'm glad his addiction is to golf because it would scare me in other environments.
But you have a unique perspective with tour players as well. You think they're all kind of a little bit batty?
Oh, there's no doubt. They're all, I think they're all crazy, to be honest with you. But they're great. A lot of them great guys. It's not easy out there. There's no doubt about it. It's very difficult and stressful, and they have families. And when you're missing cuts, we missed 14 cuts, I think, out of 16 events year 2. And trust me, that was not an easy year. And so very fortunate, ended up winning John Deere, and that gave us a lot of freedom, and we got to breathe a little bit, even though we went and missed the cut the next week at the Open, and we weren't breathing too good that week. But again, it's certainly changed now, and with 5 wins and winning in Europe as well, it's been really cool. So looking forward to hopefully a win at a major. He'll love Pebble. This was kind of like his backyard. So.
Speaking of majors, there's a guy playing that did pretty good a few weeks ago. What's your take on Tiger Woods and what he means to the game?
I certainly picked him 3 or 4 weeks ago. Everybody's asking me who's going to win Augusta with Tiger, without a doubt. I don't think Bryson probably liked that when I was saying that. But, I obviously I have to root for Bryson. I have to pick Bryson. But Tiger, you could see the trending. You could see how he was trending, how he was getting ready. It was just inevitable. He's great for the game, obviously, and glad to have him back. I think that's important. He's good friends with Bryson. He treats Bryson extremely well. They do a lot of practice rounds together. So, I think in some ways, there's some good influence there. So I hope he keeps playing and hope he stays healthy.
Influence. That's an interesting word to use for Tiger, because you never would have expected that out of the old Tiger, but he certainly appears to be a new person, and has taken on that role of mentor. Yeah,
I think so with some of the other players as well, but he started calling Bryson, so it was kind of interesting. I was with him a lot of time. All of a sudden, hey, Tiger's texting me, and what do? I'll text him back. So it's probably a good thing to do. But they, started doing practice rounds together, and Tiger was very inquisitive to what Bryson was doing, and this caddy. Obviously, the barometric pressure and wind gauges, come out in practice rounds a little more, and so he thought that was pretty crazy. But he also thought absolutely amazing, and he said he loved it. He thought it was so cool. He saw Bryson's caddy's little chart that he carries, and it basically tells you what happens in different wind and barometric pressure changes. So and Bryson, again, you can't tell him about 5 yards. It's about 5 yard difference. If you do that, get ready for a golf club coming at your face. It better be 1 yard. It better be 2 yards. And having that information to him just makes him comfortable. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been for him. It's about being comfortable. A guy like Dustin Johnson, yeah, man, I think it's about this. And so he's comfortable doing that. Obviously, Brooks Koepka, same thing. There's a lot of guys like that. But Bryson, man, he wants to know everything there possibly is about every part that influences that golf ball. It's just that simple. I can't even tell you what he's doing with golf balls right now. It's crazy. But it's challenging a manufacturer. And it's going to challenge them to outer limits that they never thought they'd go to, because they have a player like Bryson, and they're very fortunate.
You mentioned Dustin and you mentioned Brooks, and you think of Bryson. Boy, those are 3 different body types, and the notion earlier that you had to have this long athletic body to be a good golfer,
right.
It comes down to being fitted correctly, I'm guessing.
Right, and again, Bryson, we pretty much are exactly opposite of what everybody says you're supposed to do. So a lot of evaluations would say you need to shift into your right side a little more. to be more efficient. Well, Bryson doesn't do that. He pretty much stays all on his left side. So we've always talked about axis points, which is left hip, center, and then your right hip. So we always thought, well, to be really more efficient, let's stay on the left hip joint and rotate around that a little bit more. It maximized his hip rotation. And again, he generates 120 mile an hour club head speed. So without really any, quote, weight shift, now he has pressure shift. Definitely, and there's a difference in there. That's a long conversation. But the reality, when you look at him swing, it looks like he's just staying on his left side and rotating around that. And that's what he wanted to do. Was efficient. I believe in it. I have players that do it. I also have players that shift big time to the right. And so, again, everybody's a little bit different. And so it's part of my job as an instructor is to find what works best for a student and what they want to do. And hopefully they succeed.
What effect in Fresno has Bryson had with some of your other students coming up?
Well, they think we're crazy. So most of our students come from out of town, which is really funny. That's a catch-22 because, again, there's still that apprehension about what we do. A lot of people, again, assume I teach everybody, with a very upright club and the Jumbo Max grips, although a lot of my students have Jumbo Max grips as they realize that they can hit it farther and straighter with it. So, but again, I have players that hold their hands lower. I have players that hold their hands higher. And so, that's probably the thing that a lot of students or coaches, high school coaches will see in that a lot of my players, let's say Bryson having his hands very high, that confuses a lot of people. Why does he do that? Well, basically he did that, that was his impact position. So it's like his thought was, well, why don't I just start where I'm going to end up? Well, yeah, that makes sense. And so, and I've always kind of believed that, and so that's always kind of been our little common bond there. We typically believe in reverse engineering thing. I think that's the physics and the engineering part of him and maybe a little bit about me. I like to see what's on the inside and then work backwards. And so that's, what I do with students typically is I take a video of them and where they look at it, where they are at impact, and then we go backwards from there. And so I had a student yesterday, started out with a 47-degree base plane line, and her impact was 57. Well, that's hard to be consistent doing that. And so, but again, I have to show the student that, and they have to buy in. Do we want to change that? And all of a sudden you see posture getting better. You see if she became more efficient, all of a sudden big smile on her face because she saw the ball going straighter, and so on. So, but she bought into what the process was and how it works, and why it would work for her. So I always look at impact and then go from there.
I really want to thank Mr. Mike Schy for coming out. You, as I said, go ahead. Mike, you're not only a good friend, but you're a good friend of the game, and we appreciate all you do, and thanks for being with us today.